The sky over Tinian Island burns with the amber glow of a Pacific dawn. It's March 1945, and the war in the Pacific has entered its most brutal phase. Rows of Boeing B-29 superfortresses sit like sleeping giants on the coral runways, each one a feat of American engineering, each one a promise of destruction for the Japanese homeland. Inside the operations tent, the air is thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Maps cover every surface, marked with red lines tracing routes across 1,500 miles of open ocean to Tokyo and back. The mission planners speak in clipped tones. Today's target, the Nakajima Aircraft Engine Factory in the suburbs of Tokyo. 36 B-29s will make the run. The odds say not all will return. Captain James Mac McAllister stands outside his bomber, the Lady May, watching his crew perform final checks. He's 26 years old but looks older. 3 months of combat missions over Japan will do that to a man. The B-29 towers above him, its polished aluminum skin reflecting the rising sun. 4 Wright R-3350 engines, each producing 2,200 horsepower. Wingspan of 141 feet. Maximum takeoff weight of 140,000 pounds. It's the most advanced bomber in the world, and it's also the most temperamental. Number 3 engine is running hot again, Captain, calls out Technical Sergeant Eddie Kowalski from beneath the wing. He's the flight engineer, a kid from Pittsburgh who can hear problems in an engine before the instruments show them. We're gonna need to watch her close. Mac nods. They always need to watch something close. The R-3350 engines are powerful but plagued with problems. Overheating, fires, mechanical failures. The crews have a dark joke. The B-29 is the best bomber the Japanese never had to shoot down. It kills enough American airmen on its own. The rest of the crew assembles near the nose hatch. Co-pilot First Lieutenant Robert Chen, a Californian of Chinese descent who flies with a quiet intensity. Navigator Second Lieutenant Thomas Brady, whose maps and calculations will guide them across an ocean that forgives no mistakes. Bombardier First Lieutenant Carl Jensen, whose job is simple but final: release the bombs over the target, not before, not after. Radio Operator Staff Sergeant Vincent DeLuca keeps checking his equipment, his fingers dancing over knobs and dials. The gunners, Tail Gunner Sergeant Bill Morrison, Right Gunner Sergeant Frank Hayes, Left Gunner Sergeant Jack Murphy, and Central Fire Control Gunner Sergeant David Kim, check their .50 caliber machine guns with the mechanical precision of men who know their lives depend on those weapons. "Crew, listen up," Mac says, his voice cutting through the morning noise. "It's a long haul today. 1,500 miles to Tokyo, 1,500 back. Weather looks decent, but we're expecting heavy flak over the target and probable fighter interception. Stick to formation, watch your intervals, and for God's sake, don't get cocky. The Japanese have gotten better at this." The men nod. They've all seen planes go down. They've all seen the empty cots in the barracks, the personal effects packed up and shipped home. They know what's at stake. At 0700 hours, the engines roar to life. One by one, the 4 R-3350s catch and settle into a deep, throbbing rhythm. Mac runs through the checklist with Chen, calling out each item, receiving confirmation. Oil pressure, fuel mixture, magnetos, turbochargers. Everything reads normal. Everything except that persistent heat signature on number 3. "She'll hold," Kowalski says over the intercom, but Mac hears the uncertainty beneath the confidence. The tower gives them clearance. Mac advances the throttles, and the Lady May begins to roll. Loaded with 10,000 pounds of incendiary bombs and 7,400 gallons of fuel, the bomber is at the edge of its operational limits. The coral runway stretches ahead, 7,000 feet of crushed rock and hope. If they don't reach 120 miles per hour by the end of that runway, they'll plow straight into the ocean. The engines scream. The airframe shakes. The runway blurs beneath them. Mac pulls back on the yoke at exactly the right moment, and the Lady May lifts, barely, grudgingly, into the tropical air. The Pacific spreads below them, endless and blue and indifferent. They climb to 25,000 feet, joining the formation of other B-29s assembling over the island. From this height, Tinian looks like a gray comma in an infinite sentence of water. Mac counts the other bombers, 36 Silverbirds climbing toward Japan. Some of them, he knows, won't make it back. The question is only which ones. Brady plots their course. Chen adjusts the throttles to maintain formation speed. Kowalski watches his instruments like a priest reading omens. The gunners scan the sky, searching for the glint of Japanese fighters that could appear at any moment. 4 hours into the flight, the routine settles in. The drone of the engines becomes almost hypnotic. Below them, the Pacific is empty. No ships, no islands, just water reflecting the sun like hammered metal. They're beyond the point of no return now. There's not enough fuel to turn back. Tokyo or nothing. Mac knows the statistics. Of every 100 B-29 missions, 15 planes don't return. Of those 15, only 3 or 4 are lost to enemy action. The rest? Mechanical failure. Engine fires. Fuel exhaustion. Navigational errors leading to crashes into the Pacific. The ocean below doesn't care about courage or skill. It takes everyone equally. "Captain, I've got land on radar," Brady announces. "Japan, dead ahead. 30 minutes to target." Mac feels his heartbeat accelerate. This is where it gets real. This is where men die. The formation tightens. Mac can see the other B-29s through his cockpit window, their wings catching the sunlight. Somewhere ahead, the Japanese are preparing. Anti-aircraft guns are being loaded. Fighter pilots are climbing into their cockpits. The sky over Tokyo is about to become hell. "Gunners, stay sharp," Mac says. "Tokyo's going to come up fast, and they'll be ready for us." In the tail, Morrison keys his mic. "I was born ready, Captain." But Mac knows better. Nobody's ever ready for what's coming. You just do your job and hope you live through it. The coast of Japan appears, a dark line separating water from land. Ahead lies Tokyo, its factories and airfields, its people and its defenses. The Lady May flies on, one bomber among dozens, carrying fire to an enemy that will not surrender. And somewhere in those 4 engines, something is already starting to go wrong. The Japanese coast slides beneath them like a map coming to life. Mountains, green and volcanic, rise from the sea. Small villages dot the landscape, their roofs dark against the earth. Mac knows that in those villages, people are hearing the air raid sirens now, running for shelters, looking up at the sky with fear and hatred. Flak at 11 o'clock. Hayes shouts. Black puffs of smoke bloom in the sky ahead. Anti-aircraft fire, deadly and precise. The Japanese have had months to perfect their aim, and they're getting better. Mac watches as the explosions track closer to the formation. Shrapnel tears through the air at thousands of feet per second. One piece, no bigger than a fingernail, can punch through aluminum like paper, can sever a hydraulic line, can kill a man instantly. The Lady May shudders as the formation adjusts altitude, trying to stay above the flak. But the Japanese adjust too. More black flowers bloom. Mac hears the ping-ping-ping of shrapnel hitting the fuselage, a sound like hail on a tin roof, except each piece of hail can end your life. Fighters, high and to the right. Morrison yells from the tail. 2, no, 3, Nakajima Ki 84s. The Japanese fighters dive toward the formation like hawks on pigeons. The Ki 84 Frank is fast, maneuverable, and deadly, powered by a Nakajima Ha-45 engine producing 1,900 horsepower. They're armed with two 20mm cannons and two 12.7mm machine guns. Against AB-29, they're designed for one thing: kill shots. Here they come. Murphy shouts. The sky erupts with tracer fire. The B-29's defensive armament, 12.50 caliber machine guns in remote-controlled turrets, opens up. Red tracers arc out toward the diving fighters. The central fire control system, a marvel of technology, links all the guns so they can concentrate fire on a single target. It's like conducting an orchestra of death. One key, 84, breaks off, trailing smoke. But the other two press their attack. Mac sees the fighter's nose light up, muzzle flashes from its cannons. Shells walk across the sky toward them. The Lady May shakes as rounds slam into the wing. Aluminum tears. Something vital breaks. "We're hit," Kowalski yells. "Number 3 engine, we're losing oil pressure." Mac looks at the gauges. Number 3's oil pressure is dropping fast, the temperature spiking into the red. Without oil, the engine will seize, maybe catch fire. A fire in flight is every pilot's nightmare, especially with 7,000 gallons of high-octane fuel aboard. Feather number 3. Mac orders. Chen hits the feathering button. The propeller blades rotate to align with the airflow, reducing drag. The engine sputters, coughs, goes silent. The Lady May yaws to the right as the asymmetric thrust pulls them off course. "Compensating," Chen says, adjusting the trim tabs and adding power to the other engines. They're down to 3 engines now, but that's manageable. The B-29 is designed to fly on 3. It's not ideal. They'll burn more fuel, lose speed, have trouble maintaining altitude, but they can make it work. Tokyo ahead. Brady calls. 5 minutes to target. The city sprawls below them, vast and gray and burning. Other B-29s have already made their runs. Smoke rises in thick columns. Mac can see the fires spreading, blocks upon blocks of wooden structures igniting like matches. The Nakajima factory is supposed to be in the northeast section, a cluster of buildings near the river. "Bombardier, you're up," Mac says. Jensen hunches over his Norden bomb sight, making minute adjustments. The bomb sight is an analog computer, a mechanical marvel that calculates altitude, airspeed, wind drift, and trajectory to determine the precise moment to release the bombs. But it only works if the plane flies straight and level. Any deviation means missing the target. "Bomb bay doors open," Jensen says. "I've got the factory, adjusting for wind. Steady, steady." The Lady May flies through a storm of flak. Each black burst is a fist trying to knock them from the sky. Mac grips the yoke, fighting to keep the plane level. His hands are white-knuckled. Every instinct screams to jink, to dodge, to do anything but fly straight. But Jensen needs these 30 seconds of stable flight. "Steady," Jensen repeats. Wham! Something massive hits the plane. The airframe rings like a struck bell. Alarms scream. Red lights flash across the instrument panel. "Number 1 engine," Kowalski shouts. "Fire. We've got a fire in number 1. Mac's blood turns to ice. Fire. The word every bomber crew fears most. He looks at the left wing. Flames stream from the engine nacelle, bright orange against the blue sky. The fire is eating through the cowling, reaching toward the fuel tanks. "Fire suppression on number 1. Mac commands. Chen hits the CO2 extinguisher button. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the flames diminish, flicker, die. But the engine is ruined. Bent rods, melted wiring, seized pistons. Another dead engine. "Bombs away," Jensen calls. The Lady May lurches upward as 10,000 pounds of incendiaries drop from the bay. Mac watches the bombs fall, tumbling end over end toward the factory below. They disappear into the smoke. Whether they hit the target or not, they'll never know. The only thing that matters now is getting home. "Chen, status report," Mac says, his voice steady despite the chaos. 2 engines down, 1 and 3. 2 and 4 are still good, but we're at maximum power on both. Fuel consumption is up 30%. Oil pressure on number 4 is fluctuating. We're losing altitude. Mac does the math in his head. 1,500 miles to Tinian. 2 engines instead of 4. Higher fuel burn. They're in serious trouble. Navigator, give me a course back to base. Shortest route over water. Brady's hands move across his charts. Direct route puts us over open ocean for 1,400 miles. No emergency landing options. If we go down, we're swimming. Any other choice? Iwo Jima. It's 600 miles southeast. The Marines took it last month. If we can make it there. Plot the course to Iwo, Mac decides. We're not making it back to Tinian on 2 engines. The formation is already pulling away from them. The other B-29s maintain their altitude and speed, heading home. The Lady May is falling behind, dropping lower, slowing down. In the Pacific Air War, there's no room for sentiment. If you can't keep up, you're on your own. Captain, we've got company, Morrison says quietly. 2 more fighters, closing from 6 o'clock. Mac looks back. 2 more Key 84s, circling like sharks that smell blood. They know the Lady May is wounded. They know she's alone. Easy prey. Gunners, tight formation fire. Make every shot count. The fighters come in fast. Morrison's tail guns hammer out a stream of .50 caliber rounds. Tracers crisscross the sky. 1 fighter rolls away, but the other presses the attack. Mac sees the flashes from its cannons, hears the thunk-thunk-thunk of rounds hitting the fuselage. Something in the radio compartment explodes. DeLuca screams. The smell of burning electrical insulation fills the cabin. DeLuca's hit, someone shouts. Medic! We need a medic! But there is no medic. There are 11 men in a damaged bomber, 30,000 feet over enemy territory, 2 engines dead, fighters on their tail, and the nearest friendly territory is 600 miles of empty ocean away. Kim's central fire control puts sustained fire on the attacking fighter. 50 caliber rounds chew through the Key 84's wing. The fighter shudders, rolls, and spins down toward the earth, trailing black smoke. The second fighter breaks off. Maybe out of ammunition. Maybe low on fuel. Maybe just smart enough to know when to quit. Fighters disengaging, Morrison reports. We're clear. But they're not clear. Not even close. Mac looks at the fuel gauges. Both remaining engines are gulping fuel at an unsustainable rate. The needle is dropping faster than it should. Kowalski, check for fuel leaks. The engineer unbuckles and moves through the aircraft, inspecting the fuel lines. When he returns, his face is grim. We're leaking from the port wing tank. Looks like we took a cannon round through the baffles. It's a slow leak, but it's steady. Mac does the math again. The math doesn't work. They don't have enough fuel to reach Iwo Jima. The Lady May limps away from the Japanese coast, leaving behind the smoke of burning Tokyo. Below them, the Pacific stretches endless and cold. The sun is past its zenith now, beginning its long fall toward the western horizon. Chen looks at Mac. We're not going to make it, are we? Mac doesn't answer. He just grips the yoke tighter and flies on into the gathering afternoon, hoping for a miracle he doesn't believe in. 2 hours out from Tokyo, the Lady May is dying by degrees. Altitude, 18,000 feet and falling. They've already dropped 7,000 feet, unable to maintain height on just 2 engines running at emergency power. Every minute costs them another 100 feet. The math is simple and brutal. At this rate, they'll be in the water long before they reach Iwo Jima. Fuel, less than 2,000 gallons remaining. The leak from the port wing is worse than Kowalski thought. They're leaving a fine mist of aviation fuel in their wake, burning through their lifeline at a rate that makes Mac's stomach clench. DeLuca sits propped against the radio compartment bulkhead, his shoulder wrapped in makeshift bandages torn from an undershirt. The cannon round that hit the radio equipment sent shrapnel through his upper body. He's conscious but pale, sweating despite the freezing cold at altitude. Without proper medical attention, he'll go into shock. Maybe worse. "Captain," Brady says, his voice tight, "by my calculations, we don't have the fuel to reach Iwo. Not at current consumption rates. We're 60 miles short. Maybe more." Mac has been avoiding this moment, but there it is. The truth laid bare. What about ditching? Pacific water temperature is about 65 degrees. In our flight suits, we'd have maybe 2 hours before hypothermia sets in. The life rafts hold 4 men each. We're 11. The emergency radio has limited range, maybe 50 miles. Chance of rescue. Brady pauses. Low. Very low. The crew is listening. Mac can feel their fear through the intercom silence. He needs to make a decision. The wrong decision kills them all. The right decision might still kill them all. "There's one more option," Kowalski says quietly. Mac looks at the flight engineer. "We shut down engine number 2. The cockpit goes silent. Chen turns to stare at Kowalski. "That's insane," Chen says. "We're already on 2 engines. If we shut down another—" "Listen to me," Kowalski interrupts. "Engine 2 is burning fuel at maximum power. She's working 3 times harder than she should because we're so heavy, and she's compensating for the dead engines. If we shut her down and fly on just number 4, we cut our fuel consumption by 40%. Maybe more. We'll lose all altitude," Mac says. "We'll fall like a rock." "Not if we lighten the plane," Kowalski counters. "Dump everything we don't need. Ammunition, guns, equipment, food, everything. Get down to minimum weight. Then we can maintain maybe 10,000 feet on 1 engine. Maybe. Chen's voice rises. "You're saying maybe we can fly a B-29 across 600 miles of ocean on 1 engine?" "I'm saying it's our only chance." Mac looks at the fuel gauges. At the altimeter showing their steady descent. At the empty Pacific below. Kowalski is right. It's insane. It's also their only option. "All crew, this is the captain," Mac says over the intercom. "We're going to try something that's never been done before. We're going to fly home on 1 engine. That means we're dumping everything we don't need. Strip this bird down to bare bones. Guns, ammunition, the auxiliary power unit, oxygen bottles we're not using, flak suits, anything that's not bolted down. If it has weight, it goes overboard. Move fast." For a moment, no one responds. Then Morrison says, "You heard the captain. Let's make this bird light enough to float." The crew springs into action. The tail gun is disconnected and pushed out through the opening. It tumbles away, glinting in the sun before disappearing toward the ocean below. The waist guns follow. Ammunition cans, each weighing 50 pounds, are heaved out. The gunners work with desperate speed, tearing out everything removable. The auxiliary power unit, used for starting engines on the ground, weighs 800 pounds. 4 men wrestle it to the bomb bay and shove it out. It falls like a metal coffin. Oxygen bottles, tool kits, personal bags, extra flight suits. Everything goes. Mac even dumps the Norden bomb sight, a piece of classified equipment worth $10,000, but worthless if they're dead. "We've dumped about 4,000 pounds, Kowalski reports. "Maybe more." "Is it enough?" "We're about to find out." Mac takes a breath. "Chen, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to reduce power on number 2 while you maintain power on number 4. We'll glide down to 10,000 feet. Once we're there, we shut down number 2 completely, feather the prop, and see if number 4 can hold us level. And if it can't? Then we ditch and hope the Navy finds us before the sharks do. Chen's jaw tightens, but he nods. Mac pulls back the throttle on engine number 2. The R-3350 winds down from its screaming emergency power to a more sustainable cruise setting. Immediately, the Lady May begins to descend faster. The altimeter unwinds. 17,000. 16,000. 15,000. The Pacific rises to meet them. Mac can see the individual whitecaps now, the texture of the swells. The water looks cold and final. 14,000. 13,000. 12,000. Steady, Mac says, more to himself than anyone else. Steady. 11,000 feet. Number 4 is at max continuous power, Chen reports. Oil temperature is high but acceptable. If we push her any harder, she'll overheat. Understood. Let her run at max continuous. 10,000 feet. The Lady May levels off. For a moment, they're stable. The single engine on the right wing howls with effort, the propeller carving through the air, the R-3350 giving everything it has. Mac can feel the asymmetric thrust pulling them right. He compensates with rudder and aileron trim, but it's like flying with one arm tied behind your back. All right, Mac says. Kill engine number 2. Chen reaches for the mixture control and pulls it to idle cutoff. Engine number 2 coughs once, twice, then goes silent. The propeller windmills for a moment before Chen hits the feathering button. The blades rotate parallel to the airflow, and suddenly there are 3 dead engines and 1 screaming survivor. The Lady May yaws hard right. Mac fights the controls, using full left rudder to counter the pull. His leg muscles scream with the effort. Sweat runs down his face despite the cold. I need help here, Mac says. Chen adds his strength to the rudder pedal. Together, they muscle the bomber back to something resembling straight flight. But it's exhausting. Every second is a fight. Mac knows he can't maintain this for hours. Nobody could. Trim it out, Chen says. Use the trim tabs to take the pressure off. Mac adjusts the rudder trim wheel, slowly rolling it left until some of the pressure eases. It's not perfect, they're flying crooked, crabbing slightly through the air, but it's sustainable. How's she handling? Kowalski asks. Like a shopping cart with a bad wheel, Mac says. But she's flying. What's our fuel status? Consumption dropped by half. We're burning about 200 gallons per hour now instead of 400. At this rate, we might make Iwo Jima. Might. What's our altitude? Holding at 9,800 feet. Not climbing, not descending. Engine number 4 is at 115% of normal operating parameters, but she's holding together. Mac looks out at the right wing. The single engine roars, the propeller a silvery disk. That engine is the only thing between them and the ocean. If it fails, they have seconds before they hit the water. How long to Iwo? Mac asks. Brady consults his charts. 4 hours. Maybe 3.5 if we pick up a tailwind. 4 hours. 4 hours of flying a crippled bomber on one engine, every minute a gamble that the engine holds, that the fuel lasts, that nothing else breaks. Mac has never heard of a B-29 flying more than a few minutes on one engine, let alone hours across open ocean. Captain, Morrison says from the back, for what it's worth, I believe we're going to make it. This is the craziest damn thing I've ever seen, but I think we're actually going to make it. Mac doesn't share the optimism, but he appreciates the sentiment. The sun moves across the sky. The Pacific rolls below them, unchanging and vast. The Lady May flies on, crooked and wounded but still airborne, carried by one engine and 11 men who refuse to die. An hour passes. Then 2. "Captain," Brady says suddenly, "I've got land on the horizon. That's Iwo Jima." Mac looks ahead. There it is, a dark speck in the endless blue. The island looks tiny, impossibly small. 8 square miles of volcanic rock that the Marines took at the cost of thousands of lives. But right now, it's the most beautiful thing Mac has ever seen. "Radio ahead," Mac orders. "Tell them we're coming in hot on one engine with wounded aboard. We'll need an ambulance and—" Bang! The sound is like a gunshot in the cockpit. Every warning light on the panel illuminates at once. Engine number 4's RPM drops. The oil pressure gauge falls to 0. The temperature spikes into the red. Number 4's failed. Kowalski screams. The engine's seized. The propeller stops turning. Becomes a flat disc of metal creating massive drag. The Lady May pitches forward, the nose dropping toward the ocean. Without power, without lift, they're a glider, and not a very good one. "Feather the prop," Mac shouts. Chen hits the feathering button. Nothing happens. It's not responding. The hydraulics are gone. They're falling. The altimeter unwinds. 9,000. 8,000. 7,000. Dump the rest of the fuel. Mac orders. Everything from the damaged tank. We need to lighten up now. Kowalski hits the emergency fuel dump. A stream of precious avgas pours from the port wing, but they're already falling too fast. 6,000 feet. The ocean rushes up. Mac can see the wave patterns, the foam crests. They have maybe 90 seconds before impact. Brace for ditching. Mac yells. Everyone to crash positions. DeLuca, hold on to something. The crew scrambles. Life vests are inflated. Men wedge themselves into positions, heads between knees, hands braced against bulkheads. 4,000 feet. Mac pulls back on the yoke with everything he has. The controls are sluggish without power, but the Lady May responds. The nose comes up slightly. Not enough to climb, but enough to slow the descent. They're not falling, they're gliding. The question is whether they can glide the last few miles to Iwo Jima. 3,000 feet. "We're not going to make the island," Chen says quietly. "Like hell we're not," Mac growls. He adjusts the trim, trying to squeeze every foot of glide out of the dying bomber. The airspeed bleeds off. They're balancing on the edge of a stall. Fly too slow and they'll drop like a stone, but they need to be slow to stretch the glide. 2,000 feet. Iwo Jima is ahead. Mac can see the volcanic slopes, the airfield with its runway, the tiny figures of men on the ground looking up at them. They're so close. So impossibly close. 1,000 feet. "We're going in the water," Mac says. 50 yards short of the beach. "When we hit, get out fast. The plane will sink in under a minute." 500 feet. The ocean is right there. Mac can see the individual waves, the shadows beneath the surface. He lines up with the swells, trying to land parallel to the wave direction to minimize the impact. 200 feet. Brace, brace, brace. 100 feet. The Lady May hits the water.